hammer, left on the floor. Wire wrapped around wrists. Tape pressed over mouths. 3 bodies in a single room. And in the back bedroom, separated from all of that by nothing more than a thin wooden door, 3 young boys. Sleeping. Untouched. Alive. One child, however, was gone entirely. No body. No trail. No explanation. The cabin sat quietly in the mountains of Northern California. It had no history of violence. No dark reputation. No reason to fear it. It was just a small, modest rental unit at a small, quiet resort nestled in the pines. And then, on the morning of April 12, 1981, it became one of the most disturbing crime scenes in American history. A case so brutally mishandled and so deliberately obscured that nearly half a century later, no one has ever been held accountable. Her name was Glenna Sue Sharp. She was 36 years old, freshly divorced, and in the middle of rebuilding her life from the ground up. After the end of a 15-year marriage, Sue had packed up her 5 children: John, 15, Sheila, 14, Tina, 12, Rick, 10, and Greg, just 5 years old, and moved the entire family from Connecticut to Northern California to be closer to her brother. She enrolled in a federal education program. She stretched food stamps and a small alimony check across 6 people. She was not reckless. She was not careless. She was a mother doing exactly what mothers do, making something out of very little, one careful day at a time. For temporary housing, she rented Cabin 28 at the Keddie Resort in Plumas County. A mountain community deep in the Sierra Nevada, Keddie was the kind of place where children ran freely, neighbors knew each other by name, and a cool river wound its way through the trees nearby. To the Sharp children, it felt like the fresh start their mother had promised them. Sue was building something real. She was almost there. The disappearance. April 11, 1981. A Saturday. Ordinary in every way it possibly could have been. That morning, Sue and Sheila drove to the nearby town of Quincy to collect John and his friend Dana from Gansner Park. They returned briefly to the cabin, but by mid-afternoon John and Dana had decided to hitchhike back into Quincy to spend the evening with friends. Multiple eyewitnesses later confirmed they were seen in Quincy that afternoon. One woman remembered picking them up and dropping them at a friend's house. They eventually made their way to a gathering at Oakland Camp before returning to Keddie later that evening. Back at the cabin, Sheila and Tina had made their own plans. The 2 sisters walked to a neighboring cabin to sleep over with a friend. But somewhere along the way Tina changed her mind. Between 9 and 10 that evening, she turned back and walked home to Cabin 28 alone. She was 12 years old, and she would never be seen alive again. By the time darkness fully settled over the resort, the people inside the cabin were Sue, John, Tina, the younger boys Rick and Greg, and a family friend named Justin Smart, who was spending the night. When Sheila returned home early the following morning, she opened the front door and stepped into something that would define the rest of her life. Sue, John, and Dana had been bound and killed. The violence had been severe and prolonged. The physical evidence made that clear. 2 knives were recovered. A hammer lay on the floor. Blood covered the walls, the ceiling, and the floor in a pattern so extensive that investigators noted it immediately. This was not quick. Whoever had done this had taken their time. Police arrived. The counting began. John. Dana. Officers looked at the children outside and counted again. Tina Sharp was not there. Not in any room. Not on the property. Not anywhere. A search began immediately. Keddie and the surrounding mountain terrain were searched over the following days by officers and community volunteers. The FBI was brought in to assist. They worked through April and by the end of the month, having found nothing of value, quietly withdrew. Then came the question that would haunt this case for years. Where was Tina? Why had she been taken when the others had not? What had made her different in the eyes of whoever walked through that door? 3 years passed in near silence. In April of 1984, a man searching for discarded bottles in Butte County, almost 100 miles from Keddie, stumbled across fragments of a human skull. By June of 1984, forensic analysis confirmed what investigators had feared. The remains belonged to Tina Sharp. She had been 12 years old when she was taken from Cabin 28. The case was formally reclassified as a quadruple homicide. But the question of why Tina was taken, and what happened to her in the distance between that cabin and those hills, has never been answered. The unexplained detail. Among all the disturbing details of this case, there is one that has never been satisfactorily explained. It does not announce itself loudly. It does not demand attention. It simply sits there quietly and refuses to go away. 3 young boys, Rick Sharp, Greg Sharp, and Justin Smart, were in a back bedroom on the other side of a thin interior door while 3 people were murdered in the room beyond it. The physical evidence made clear that what happened in that living room was not fast. And yet, 3 children on the other side of that door, 2 of whom were Sue's own sons, reportedly heard nothing. Slept through all of it. Woke only when someone came to their window. When investigators pressed Justin Smart about what he had actually witnessed, the answers changed. In his first account, he said he had been half asleep and believed it was a dream. In his second, he said he had been fully awake and had seen the murders happen. Under hypnosis, a third and far more detailed account emerged. In this version, all 3 boys had been awake, watching television in the bedroom, and had gone to the doorway to investigate the sounds. Justin described seeing 2 men in a heated confrontation with Sue, John, and Dana. One man had long hair and a mustache. The other had short hair. Both wore glasses. One was holding a hammer. During the confrontation, he said, one of the men grabbed Tina and physically dragged her out of the cabin through the front door. 3 different accounts. 3 different versions of the same night. From the only child witness who appeared to have seen anything at all. How much of it was memory? How much was a child's mind protecting itself from something too large to process? And how much, if any, was shaped by the adults asking the questions? No one has ever been able to answer that. What investigators did eventually discover was that the scene itself carried signs of deliberateness. The lights had been turned off. The curtains were closed. The telephone had been left off the hook. These were not the marks of a sudden, unplanned act. Someone had thought about this. Someone had prepared. Which raises the question that sits beneath everything else in this case. If this was planned, was Tina part of that plan from the beginning? Was she the reason someone came to Cabin 28 that night? Or was she simply in the wrong place at the wrong moment? A 12-year-old who had turned back from a sleepover because she wanted to sleep in her own bed? Sheila Sharp has carried that question with her for decades. Her sister had originally planned to stay with a friend. She came home by choice. And Sheila has said she still wonders how things might have turned out if Tina had made a different decision that night. The 2 men investigators long believed to be responsible, Martin Smart and John Beau Bubaid, are both dead. A single fingerprint lifted from the cabin's back stair railing was never conclusively matched to anyone. Critical evidence was improperly stored and ultimately destroyed. A recorded tip call, made on the very day Tina's remains were publicly announced by a caller who appeared to already know whose bones had been found, sat sealed inside an unopened evidence box for nearly 30 years. A mother. A 15-year-old boy. A young man who was simply a friend in the wrong place. And a 12-year-old girl who only wanted to sleep in her own bed. 4 lives. 1 cabin. And a mystery that has never been resolved. So here is what this case leaves you with. Why was Tina taken when the others were not? Why did the only child witness give 3 separate and contradictory accounts? Why did a caller who seemed to already know about Tina's remains go unidentified for 3 decades? And why, in a cabin full of evidence, did no one ever face a single charge? Was it incompetence? Was it negligence? Or was Cabin 28, and everyone inside it that night simply abandoned? The answer is out there, somewhere in the distance between that cabin and a hillside in Butte County. It has never been found. And perhaps that's what makes the Keddie Cabin murders so unsettling, even decades later. This wasn't a crime that happened in a dark alley or an abandoned building. It happened inside a family home. A place that was supposed to be safe. A place where a mother was trying to build a better future for her children. What began as a fresh start for the Sharp family ended in one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries in American history. 4 lives were lost. A young girl disappeared into the night. Critical evidence vanished, witnesses changed their stories, and key questions were never answered. Nearly half a century has passed, yet the silence surrounding Cabin 28 remains louder than ever. The cabin itself is gone, demolished years ago, but the questions survived long after the walls came down. Somewhere in the missing pieces of evidence, the forgotten witness statements, and the unanswered leads may lie the truth of what happened that night. Until then, the story of Cabin 28 remains frozen in time. A mystery suspended between fact and uncertainty, where every answer seems to create another question. And perhaps the most chilling thought of all is this. Someone knows exactly what happened inside that cabin. Someone always did. And for more than 40 years they've never spoken. So what do you think? Was this simply a case destroyed by mistakes, lost evidence, and investigative failures? Or was there someone, somewhere, who managed to stay hidden in plain sight all along? Let me know your theory in the comments below. And if you enjoy deep dives into unsolved mysteries, true crime cases, and stories that still keep investigators searching for answers decades later, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next case. Because sometimes the most terrifying mysteries aren't the ones we've solved. They're the ones that are still waiting for the truth to be uncovered.